been scarred and I've been bruised. I have learned just what to do. I need to leave my past behind me. I need to look to the future. No matter what will come, no matter what I've done, I know just what to do. And that's all because of you.
Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Hi. Good to be back on this seat. Thank you so much for your reviews on our money series. We finally closed it. We're back to normal now. We're not talking about uchukulwe mali, but I hope you guys were transformed. You learned something and that you're well on your way in journeys to rectify and redefine your financial journeys. Being okay is a holistic experience. We want to be okay in all aspects of our lives. And now we're tackling something similar, which is relational significance, being okay in relationship spaces. And we are discussing how to recover from infidelity. This is one of the biggest injuries any romantic relationship can sustain, be it marriage, be it just dating, be it an engagement, whatever definition you attach to your relationship. There's a consensus that such a betrayal is often just not welcome. It's very cruel, and the psychological injuries resulting from it are very, very lasting and very, very painful. I've structured the video in such a way that you can benefit whether you decided to remain in the relationship post the infidelity, or if you decided to leave the relationship, because even if the relationship is no longer intact, normally the injury sustained from the infidelity follows the person even outside that relationship so much that it sometimes impacts their next relationship. And this is targeted at both people that have been wronged by the other partner who brought another partner into the relationship, and the person that did the cheating themselves. The repair is holistic. I'm hoping to mend the wrongdoers and the ones that have been wronged, and see if we can transcend and find a way to heal, irrespective of the decision we took about the relationship itself. You don't have to rush out of the room if you are the one that cheated. The repair is also meant for you. It doesn't have to be an awkward thing. You can both watch if you've sustained such an injury in your relationship. I believe in family development, in family repair. I'm all for it if people decide to remain intact in their relationships. I'm even more for it if you decided you're not prepared to assign trust in that relationship again and you want to start a new one. But I don't want people to migrate with injuries into new spaces that they sustained from previous spaces. So yes, we're discussing that heavy topic. Maybe Tingo should have been here today, but anyway, I'm gonna try not make it heavy. I'm not going to try and define the spectrum of trust for people. Each person in a relationship can define for themselves what infidelity was to them, because I don't know what boundary was originally set, and now that it has been violated, how people feel. For some people, even an emotional tie to someone else is a betrayal. For some people, not returning a bid for connection is a betrayal. For some people, sex is betrayal. But whatever betrayal is, if you've been cheated on, and if you've cheated on your partner in whatever degree. And the reason this betrayal is so painful is the fact that it almost undoes the contract that you had that was binding you to that person. Because relationships are an agreement, there is an implied understanding that we're on the same page. And once you actually wrong that contract, whatever its terms were, it brings such a blur to everything else that you had previously invested in that relationship. That is the cruelest thing about infidelity, especially to the person that did not cheat. It takes whatever they know about the relationship and places them at a position where they don't know if it was valid to begin with. Because they're not in the head of the person that cheated. They don't know what it meant and what it did not mean. And therefore, to them, everything is a blur. And it becomes this constant searching of which parts were okay, which parts were not okay. At what stage did you deviate? Have you always deviated? Was I wrong about you to begin with, or was I initially right and then something happened and then? So it makes you feel like you are psychotic, like you are not in touch with reality, because there are some experiences you had with this person that are valid, that are meaningful, and now there has this injury, and you don't know what to do with the validity of the experiences you have. Were they all false? Were some of them true? Were they partially true? And it becomes this crisscross of feelings, and that makes you feel like whatever previous conviction you've had about life you can no longer trust yourself again. And that's the wrong thing about cheating, that it affects even the person that did not participate in your infidelity by removing their conviction in their capacity to make a judgment call, because the judgment call they made about you turned out to be incorrect. That is the severity of the injury, removing the lenses upon which people use to organize their reality. Because then it calls the question that if they were wrong about you and they believe they are so right, the other things they believe they are right about, are they right, or do they not have the capacity to draw correct judgments about people and situations? I'm sure as I'm saying it, you can imagine that you don't wish that even on your worst enemy. To wonder, is your capacity to make decisions intact? Because the decision you made about who to trust and who not to trust turned out to be misplaced and to be incorrect. So it affects their other relationships that have nothing to do with romance, because trust is a principle, and trust is earned. And if they felt like you earned it and gave it to you, and now it so turns out that your hands weren't capable of holding that trust, they are called to then evaluate the trust criteria they use in general about life, and that's just unfair. So that's what a betrayal does to another person. Hence the low self-esteem, hence the paranoia, hence the feeling humiliated. Because what also infidelity does, it takes resources that belong to your relationship and it assigns them to someone else, or borrows them to someone else, or opens a crack into the privacy of your relationship by making another person privy to private details of their relationship. And that is handing over their power that they did not decide to assign to that person to a third party. And it makes it undefined, because they don't know how much of that power you shared, because they went there with you. This is why there's always this vulnerability thing after you've been cheated on, of feeling like you are naked in the eyes of other people, because you're not quite sure what transpired, what they know, what they don't know, and you didn't make it the decision to share those parts of yourself with them. And because most romantic relationships are sexual, there's normally an interchange of power between the actual people in a relationship, and therefore having sex with another person outside this relationship makes that person feel like you've taken some of their sexual experiences or sexual understanding of the dynamic between the two of you, and you went to expose it, to another person. And because sex is very private, very few people are okay with having sex in public. There's something very private about intimacy, and therefore when you bring another party into it, it makes that person feel like there's suddenly eyes into their bedroom by that of another. That which they know, like, and prefer about you isn't now only accessible to them. Someone else knows about it too. And vulnerability is a person's unique and distinct right to decide, with whom am I going to be vulnerable to? So it's breaking the vulnerability contract of saying, I will be most vulnerable in front of you because I trust you, and now it's so that they did not agree to be vulnerable in front of. And also, nudity is one of the biggest times in your life you will ever be vulnerable. I don't think you are as vulnerable as when you are naked. And that opens people to a host of comparisons, because I have exposed the trueness of who I am in front of you, and you have gone to experience that with another person, and you just cannot help but compare. Was it a better experience? Is that what you prefer? Were you dissatisfied? And that's the first thing that I want to address with everybody that's been cheated on, that it had legit, absolutely nothing to do with you. I guarantee you of this. It doesn't matter what your fault, what your flaw, when somebody takes the decision to enter into another relationship with someone while they're in a relationship with you, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Nothing. I know when you evaluate the merits of any situation, it's tempting to own some of it, because it gives you some degree of control of something that you can do differently next time. So blame is very tempting, because what blame does, it says, I know what I did wrong, I'll do better next time, and I won't find myself in this pain again. But what blame also does, it takes accountability from who it belongs to and it brings it to you. And that's not okay. Once accountability is not taken and it's floating somewhere in the air, it always lands with the wrong person. The cheater is supposed to own up to that accountability so that the person that has been wronged isn't out here trying to box this accountability and figuring out what they did. The opportunity to cheat will always be there. Always. Being in love will also not protect you from it. So just because you're in love with your partner, it doesn't mean suddenly opportunities to cheat are going to disappear because we're now in love. The choice to go through with it and take the opportunity is an individual discipline decision. So if a person has cheated on you, the only logic is that they decided to. Full stop. Was the relationship dissatisfying? Maybe. Were they attracted to a new person? Maybe. They can have a host of rationale, but it always boils down to choice. The choice to first terminate this relationship and go pursue another one was also there, so that there's no cheating that was done. They've dumped you because they don't like you no more. But the choice to entertain both is exactly that, a choice. And you are not responsible for any choice that another individual makes. If the relationship has been struggling, there was the opportunity to mend, to discuss, to break up, to free themselves of the obligation towards you and go entertain another relationship. And the choice to betray was exactly that, a choice. So I hope in all of your evaluating of what went wrong, you can be open to discussion and mending, especially if you've chosen to keep the relationship intact. But I hope you don't take any accountability that does not belong to you. You did nothing wrong. If I was multilingual, I would repeat this in as many languages as I can. There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing at all. Cheating is decisional. It's decisional. Were you wrong to trust? No, you were not. Trust is also decisional. And believe me, trust is such an autonomous thing that you decide to give a gift to the other. And it can be removed at any time you feel like that person no longer meets your criteria for trust. Trust is built over many moments of fulfilled expectation, a kept promise, and it's continuous. So up until a point where you have been proven that this person isn't trustworthy, there's no reason why you shouldn't trust them. In the news of the infidelity, bring new facts to the table, then you can reevaluate, are they still worth your trust? And you can always disseminate and withdraw trust as is deserved. So you went wrong to trust them based on what you know. Continuing to trust them is your personal decision. Deciding to withdraw your trust from them is also a perfectly justifiable decision. But you are not a stupid judge of character for assigning trust based on facts that at the time told you this person is worth the risk to take trust. And trust is a risk because outcomes cannot be guaranteed. And you made the call that it was worth the risk. And with these new facts on the table, you can decide if it's still worth the risk for you. Moving into repair. I think the biggest question with people that have decided to keep their relationship intact is the need to understand, will it happen again? You don't know. Even with people that have zero history of infidelity, they still don't know if their partner wouldn't cheat on them. So when you weigh the merits of your relationship as opposed to leaving the relationship, if you decide to assign trust again, it is because you've got trust to give and you want to give it. It is not based on the guarantee whether they will do it or not do it again. Forgiveness is decisional. You give forgiveness because that's what you want to give to the other person, not because they deserve it. You can forgive people that didn't even apologize. You can forgive people that aren't even sorry because that's what you want to issue. Personally, I I issue forgiveness because I'm ready to forgive. It's got nothing to do with the transgression itself, because I need the peace that requires me to release whatever they did so I can be free. Not forgiving makes me toss and turn and toil with revenge tactics, plot and plan, and it just hijacks my thought content and like I needed to cook some lit as plans. And when I haven't forgiven you, so issuing forgiveness is writing a clean slate because I need it. Is that one worthy on the other side? Maybe not. Maybe they're really not. Do I care? No, I don't. But I want to give forgiveness. It's a value for me. I will give it as often as I can. Also, you can be really deserving of forgiveness. And if I don't have forgiveness to give you, I ain't going to forgive you. Where must I find it? So forgiveness is really, really decisional. So when you decide you're going to issue forgiveness, take it as, I'm giving you forgiveness because that's what I want to do. I don't know if you're deserving. I don't even know if you'll repeat it. I don't even know why you did it the first time. But I think my relationship is worth the risk to find out. I think the previous merit of the relationship calls upon a second chance. This is all a decision that I am taking. So you don't know and you will never know. Even with the most trustworthy people, you believe it's worth the risk to find out. So if you've been wronged and you are deciding whether to continue with the relationship or whether to terminate the relationship, I suppose a useful question to ask yourself would be, is it worth the risk for me? And if it's worth it, give it as many chances as you want. And if you believe it's not worth the risk, it doesn't matter how genuine they sound. It's an autonomous decision that it's not worth the risk for me. For the people that have decided to terminate their relationships, a very justifiable reason. The person you enter into a relationship with next does not hold the responsibility to prove to you that they are different from the person that wronged you. You are allowed to communicate the vulnerability you are walking in with in the relationship, that these are my past experiences. I may need you to be a bit more overt about communicating security to me. So you're taking ownership of the fact that I'm the one with the wound. It's not entirely healed. To meet me halfway, you may need to be mindful that I'm tender on place X, Y, Z. That owns the responsibility. That I battle with security. So I'm a bit insecure. I battle with paranoia. So I get triggered when you do X, Y, Z. You're not saying to them you did anything wrong. You're not accusing them of doing anything. You're communicating that I'm injured in X, Y, Z. And if you want to be in a relationship with me, best you be aware that I'm tender when it comes to this and this, so you can work with me. That's taking ownership of your injuries. Or it may even be best to perhaps tend to your injuries before you jump into the next relationship. And to the people that have decided to remain in their relationships, which is also a very personal and justifiable reason, depending on the merits of that relationship. Collective mending is a joint responsibility, because remember, now you've taken the choice to stay in the relationship. So the autonomy to say what you need as well, to reissue trust again, is your responsibility. The other person can't read your mind, and there isn't a lifetime jail sentence over the injury that they cause that you get to call upon every time you're pissed enough. A relationship is evaluated by both people, and if you have taken the joint choice to remain in it, you are both committing to the responsibility to repair it, and each person can say what they need. And that's an important discussion to have. And to the people that were in the wrong, the best gift you can give to your relationship is a claiming back of the power you issued to another person. And complete honesty is the only way to achieve that, so that there isn't gaps in the knowledge of the one that wasn't there. It's like you gave them back that entire picture and they get to decide what to do with it. That there isn't snippets of it that continue to catch them by surprise in the future. It can be very hard to detail your transgression to the person that you love because it's hurtful. You can feel like on top of the fact that you've hurt them, you're hurting them some more. But they need it because the question marks are there. And in the absence of the real facts, they're going to color the gaps on their own with the incorrect information. And then they draw a narrative of your injury based on information they put there themselves. So if they say, where did you meet? Although you may think this is an unnecessary fact, it's important to fill those knowledge gaps so that you both have the same story and you can help one another in writing a different ending to the story. Complete accountability and transparency as to what transpired, because believe me, their thoughts will torment them. It will torment them. It will paint many imaginative pictures of how this actually took place. And the only way to counter that imagination is to give the real fact of what really happened. Because then it will always make them feel like you have more power over them because you know something that they don't know. And most of the person on the outside also has power that they don't have. And by bringing them up to speed, you're giving them their power back. Complete accountability is non-negotiable. Being overt and generous in your attempts to earn new moments of trustworthiness. So in earning back, trust is like putting something in the bank or watering a flower. It grows the more you water it. The investment grows the more you plant into it. So by being generous in your attempts to earn back credibility, you're building that trust bank again because you completely shattered it. So be extra in the communication, be extra in the transparency, be extra in the security building, be extra in the requesting from them. What does security look like for you now? What can I do? Expect the relapses, that just when they think they're okay, something triggers them and they're not okay again, and you gotta be patient with that process. What this does is that it does not take away the trueness of your injury, but it increases the other things that you've done right as well. Then when there's a list of assessment in the relationships, it's list of wrongdoing, and if you've been generous in your attempts to mend, it is greatly outweighed by the list of good things. And in totality, we are likely to then make the conclusion that you are still a good person. So doing good things doesn't write off the bad that you've done, but it tremendously surpasses it. It tremendously surpasses it. And whether this is a pattern or not a pattern is something that you're going to have to audit to trace back your steps as to why you did that in the first place. And you can decide if you're ready for a commitment that prohibits cheating and make the decision to perhaps leave the relationship if you feel like that is something you are likely to do again. It's cruel, it's life-changing, it's mean. And if it was an error in judgment, a moment of weakness, whatever you want to term it, I hope you find it within yourself to forgive yourself so that you don't write and own that narrative as who you are. It doesn't have to be, unless that's what you want. And remember, if you're in a committed relationship, it's a useful question to always ask yourself if you can afford to lose what you have. And if you can't, then don't risk what you can't afford to lose. And believe me, your affair is not unique. I know situationship, they always feel like it's different to every other situationship that has been there. And the conclusion is always the same. It's not. It's not. If you want to build a new relationship with someone, give it the honor to end the one you are in and build this one on the right foundations and live happily ever after. But if you must duck and dive and betray someone to make someone else happy, that's very telling of your character. And it's really unnecessary. You've got the autonomy to make a choice you want to make of a partner and own it, but bring the other person up to speed about what's going on. I'm going to end it there because we're running out of time, but I wish you find the time to heal your injuries and to believe in trust, in love, in hope, in security. Again, and that one person's transgression doesn't paint a cynical picture about life for you. Nobody deserves that much power to write the narrative of what life means for you. So I hope you take back your power and you reassess your trust criteria and you decide afresh who you're going to give it to, and you can issue it as many times as your heart wishes to issue it. And if you are wronged, you can remove it again and do the same thing over and over and over. You deserve as many chances at love as life is willing to give you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next Tuesday.